Pianist, composer and philosopher Nduduzo Makhathini has released his third album, uNomkhubulwane, last month. The album features Makhathini's trio with bassist Zwelakhe-Duma Bell le Pere and drummer Francisco Mela. Nduduzo joins us now to talk more about this. A very good morning still to you, Nduduzo, and thanks very much for your time. I mean, I remember when you signed up with Blue Note Records, which, as many would know, is a reputable jazz recording company of note, excuse the pun. Everyone got excited. Has it paid off, really, in the ways that many of us thought it would?
Right. Yeah, I believe it has really been an important step in a sense of kind of aligning with the broader narratives that surround this art form that we love so much. Blue Note, as a record label, has signed some of the greatest composers and musicians and artists over many years, but fundamentally from the US side. And so I think this kind of insurgence of like more kind of African and other musicians from elsewhere getting signed to Blue Note, I think it's a move to the right direction that also suggests how this particular practice is finding homes in different localities all around the world.
Of course, I mean, your latest album, uNomkhubulwane, which features people you've been playing with for quite a while now. You're paying homage to the Zulu goddess, uNomkhubulwane. Who was uNomkhubulwane?
Well, uNomkhubulwane, according to creation story, she is regarded to be the only daughter of the creator. And in this case, the creator is uMvelingangi, who basically was the one that appeared first. But uNomkhubulwane, she becomes in this story, she becomes the first person to kind of index gender. And she is the goddess of fertility. She regulates the rain. She regulates productivity. Her language is water. And so I just wanted to explicate some of her characteristics and see what it would mean to transpose them to the everyday of these times and think about how do we immortalize myth, how do we produce new knowledge from existing stories that are kind of pushed in the periphery.
And how much of it is a continuation of your roles, you know, among them that of a healer and of an educator?
Right. It's precisely for these reasons, actually, that I create music. I was just saying in one of the other interviews that some of us have stopped creating albums and just producing material for study. And so this keyword study has been quite central in my work, in a sense of also looking beyond the university or, you know, the quote unquote formal education as a site for knowledge production, but also looking elsewhere and thinking about the ways in which study is part of the everyday. You know, it's a knowledge production that happens whether we're at home or whether we in a ritual ceremony or just in all kinds of places where socialization is happening. So I think it connects greatly with all of the things that I've been doing as a musician, as an artist, but also as an educator to kind of, you know, refuse this singularity of knowledge that only resides within an institution and kind of thinking about embodied knowledge systems and what indigenous knowledge systems have to say in these moments of post-coloniality where there is such a need to produce and excavate other epistemological sites that have been kind of like, you know, kind of run over. So
now, I mean, previously, I mean, one of your albums, I mean, a few years ago was according to some critics, spiritual jazz. I'm keen to know whether this particular album fits any particular, or shall we say, narrow even, sort of box.
Yeah, well, you know, I think spiritual jazz really is a term that comes up in the 60s, both during the exile years where musicians in South Africa were living for exile, or in the US during the civil rights movements. But I think there's a kind of a fatigue with terminologies, and in the sense that, you know, anything that we don't understand, we tend to just box within what already exists. And I think spirituality is definitely the right kind of configuration that I'm using. But I think to think about it in what I call Ndu cosmology is maybe more precise and gives us more with regards to a definition instead of this abstract kind of global terminology.
But what does terminology do, though? And I know that a lot of people can be quite fussy about it. What does terminology do when you produce, you know, a volume of work and a critic comes around and calls it whatever? Does that necessarily take away from the essence of the music itself?
Yeah, I think semantics, and I mean, we could even think about like the history of words and how, you know, each word is in essence a vibration. And I think I talk a lot with regards to how this album actually stems from the word. And when I speak about the word, in this case, I'm referring to prophetic traditions and prophetic practices that underpin the way that I'm thinking about improvisation. So I think etymology is a big part of it. You know, I'm really drawing from the Nguni etymology, and I find that there is a violence as well of translation. So, for instance, some of these things, when they articulated in English, they tend to kind of lose the flexibility or the holism that resides, for instance, within some of the Zulu words that I'm using. So there's this constant kind of borrowing of those words as a way to liberate the English language as well and expand it and protest it in many ways.
Nduduzo Makhathini, congratulations once again, and thank you for keeping on producing these kinds of works. And where can people get the album, in what forms, and can they access it?
Right. So in my socials, I have a link that really takes you to all the various places you could get the music. I know there are some record shops that have my LPs here in South Africa already, but another option is to order online. I also bring along my music to the concerts, particularly this last album. So I'm playing on the 18th of this month, which I think next week Thursday, at this very significant venue called the African Freedom Station. So I'll have the music there for the people in Johannesburg. I'm also playing on the 28th of July in Durban at the Chairman. So I'm going to bring the music there. And, you know, so, you know, I'm always traveling with this music. I have become a nomad since. So, yeah, I'll bring my boxes.
Congratulations on your, and best of luck on your Europe and US tours as well. Right. Nduduzo Makhathini, composer, healer, philosopher, pianist par excellence.